So here we go. Well, the first part isn't. So we're going to talk about how to name compounds. What we've been doing is writing formulas for compounds. Now what we're going to do is, if I give you a formula, you need to be able to tell me what the name of that compound is. All right? This is, I don't know if this part is more complicated or not. Once we get into transition metals, it gets a little complicated. All right? But we're not doing that today. So I think what we're covering today is going to be fairly simple. All right? There's just a couple little tricks here. It says use the reverse crisscross method. And, you know, there are different chemistry teachers who have different philosophies on this. This is not my favorite thing, okay? Because I can give you examples when this doesn't work, this reverse crisscross method, okay? So I think it's probably better not to use it. That's why I took it out of your notes. It's not in your note packet, all right? So I think there's a better way to figure this out, okay? And the only reason you would need to know the charges for the ions anyway is when we get a little bit further along, when you are talking about ions that can have different charges, because then you have to name them differently, okay? But when you're first starting, it doesn't even matter, all right? So we're going to name the cation first and the anion second. Cation always goes first. That's just the way that it is, all right? And then you put the anion, the negatively charged one, second in the compound, all right? For the cation, the way that you name it is you write the name of the element, right? So if I have sodium, or, well, the example here is CaCl2, right? So what's the name of the element here? What's the name of the cation? Ca is calcium, all right? You just write calcium, okay? Whoops, I'm doing it again. I'll trace over it. It's going to create this neat shadow effect that you all are going to be really impressed by. No, not really. Okay, never mind. So that's the cation, okay? Cation is just calcium. That's all you have to do. Now, the anion, you have to do something a little bit. I should preview these first so that I know what's coming. The anion, you have to do a little bit differently. You take the root of the word and then you add IDE to the end of it, okay? You guys have done this before without realizing it? What's that? Yeah. So you've done this without realizing it. What's the name, the scientific name for this, NaCl? Sodium chloride? Don't you mean sodium chlorine? Oh, see what you did there without even knowing it? You put an IDE ending on that name, okay? So that's the way that it works. You put the IDE at the end. Sodium chloride. Okay, so then what would we call CaCl2? No, don't do that. No CaCl2-ide. Okay, that will get you no points on the test. I will laugh, though. It'll put me in a good mood. Calcium chloride, right? Okay? See how easy that is? So the Cl, now the trick here is knowing exactly when to cut off the root, okay? If you do something like this, if I give you, I don't know, NaF, well, it happens more often with things like oxygen, okay? So let's say I give you this right here, Na2O, all right? And then, make sure you're paying attention, please. So then Na2O would be sodium. Okay, now if you say sodium oxygenide, okay, all right, I get that you just didn't know where to cut off the root, okay? But technically it's oxide, all right? So the trick there is just knowing exactly where to cut off the word and put the IDE ending. Just kind of go with what sounds right. Oxygenide sounds funny, doesn't it? A little bit? Oxygenide. So oxide sounds better. And some of these you'll know just kind of from your daily experience. You've said some of these things before, like chloride, for example. Okay. But if you're not sure where to cut one off, just do your best. And like I said, I'm not going to count off for not cutting off the word in the right place, as long as you put that IDE ending on the end. Okay. So calcium chloride. All right, so here's some examples, which you do not have. Oh, yeah, you do. They're just in a little bit different format, okay? So do you see where the examples are? So NaCl, we've already talked about that one, is called sodium chloride, okay? What about ZnI2? Say it again. Zinc iodide, right? Okay. And again, the spelling, just do your best with the spelling on these. Zinc iodide, okay? Sodium chloride, I can write that one too. What about Al2O3? Aluminum oxide. See how easy this is? Aluminum oxide, okay? So notice the pattern here. The first word is just what it is. The second word, you put IDE at the end of it. Okay? What about NaN3? Whoops. Na3N, sorry. I did that on the practice problems too. Oh, I guess I put some extra practice on here that I did not put on PowerPoint. Nitride or nitrate? Okay. So they all end in IDE always, okay? Well, the ones that I'm teaching you right now, they end in IDE, okay? We will get to some that end with different endings later, but don't worry about that for now, okay? So sodium, again, this is one where you could be like, oh, sodium nitrogenide, right? You don't know exactly where to cut it off. Sodium nitride, that's right, okay? So sodium nitride is going to be the Na3N. KBr is potassium bromide. CaO, calcium oxide. And MgS, magnesium sulfide. Good. Not sulfuride. Okay, but again, if you write sulfuride, I'm not going to count off. Just make sure you get that IDE ending on there, okay? Pretty easy, right? Okay, so that's all we're covering for today. Now let me show you one thing on the... Yeah, that's really all we're doing.
So we're going to have a quiz over that tomorrow.
We're going to have a quiz over that tomorrow, yes. Now, there's one little teeny tiny thing that I'm adding from yesterday that's just a little different, okay? So let me show that to you on your worksheet here, which was this one, I think. Is that the answer key or is that the actual? No, the answer key is the PDF. Okay. No, that's the quiz we just took. That's the answer key. Okay, here it is. All right, so the last page on the homework that I gave you, I told you you didn't have to do that yet. Okay, that's your homework for tonight, or really for right now because you've got time. Write the name of each of the following compounds. You guys are going to breeze through that. That's exactly what we just did, right? So, you know, write the cation first and then write the anion with the IDE ending, okay? That's 1 through 10. Now, 11 through 20, you did this sort of already. You wrote the formulas for these things, right? You just didn't quite do it in this way. So this is, if I give you magnesium nitride, okay? Now I'm asking you to write the formula for magnesium nitride. So let's think about that. Let's think about that for a second. I got too many windows open right now. Really? I don't want to play this game right now. Oh, it's a PDF anyway. Okay, so magnesium nitride has 2 elements in it. What are the 2 elements that compound has in it? Magnesium and nitrogen, right? Okay, so magnesium and nitrogen. So what I want to do now is figure out, because I'm trying to figure out the formula for this thing. Right. So, and you don't really need to worry about the valence electrons necessarily. If you in your brain now can skip that step, that's okay. All right. If you still need to think about it, that's also okay. But what charge would magnesium form when it forms an ion? 2 plus, right? It's in group 2, so it's going to form a 2 plus. What about nitrogen? 3 minus, okay? So then you do your crisscross thing.
Wait, no, wouldn't you make it 0?
Well, yeah, you would. Mg3, but the crisscross method helps you make it 0 out, right? Mg3N2. So if you've got 3 of these, oh, did you?
I did it wrong.
Whoops.
Say what?
Yeah, all you have to do is crisscross, and that takes care of the making sure it adds up to 0 part. Because what that's telling you is, if you've got 3 magnesiums, that's a total of a 6 plus from the magnesiums, right? Because each of them is a 2 plus. If you've got 2 nitrogens, that's a total of 6 minus. So 6 plus, 6 minus, that's going to equal 0, right? Whoops. All you have to do to figure out the formula is crisscross the charges. Okay? All right. So then the next one, calcium oxide. Calcium oxide, what are the 2 elements in calcium oxide? Calcium and oxygen, right? So Ca and O. Charge on calcium is 2 plus. Charge on oxygen is 2 minus. Now this one you can just look at and figure it out. You really don't have to crisscross, right? You need one of each to make it balanced. So the formula is going to be CaO. Okay? Does that make sense? You see how that works? Okay, so that's basically what you're doing for your homework. On the quiz tomorrow, there will be some where you have to go from the formula to the name, like on 1 through 10 up here. Okay? Formula to name. And then there will be some like these down here where you have to go from name to formula. All right, that's it. Go ahead and get started.